Good morning, boomers. Brian Tong here from Boomer Life. I've had a lot of questions lately about what's the current status of cruise vacations. We had two cruises planned for 2020, had to cancel them both, obviously, and we haven't reset either one of them. So I did some research, and apparently at the end of October 2020, the CDC issued a conditional sailing order that remains in effect until November 1st, which is 2 weeks from now. The order states that cruise lines should take a phased approach when restarting service and must satisfy certain safety requirements to provide a healthy environment for crew members and travelers. In response, most major cruise lines have added new protocols on their ships with the aim of resuming select itineraries this year. Updates include, but are not limited to, face mask policies, daily temperature screenings, and the introduction of onboard medical facilities designed for COVID-19 testing. So if you're still deciding whether or not you want to embark on a voyage as soon as possible, or if you're going to wait it out for a few more months or even years, that's a personal choice. But before you prepare to sail, be sure to discuss the risks with your doctor and stay up to date on where Americans can travel. And you can seek guidance from the CDC or the World Health Organization. So I'm going to go through a list of the cruise lines, the most popular ones. American Cruise Lines, as of March 13th, 2021, is back in business with routes ranging from the Mississippi River to scenic spots across New England. They're sailing at 75% capacity, and they require guests to present a negative COVID-19 test result obtained within 4 days of embarkation, and travelers may need to be fully vaccinated before setting sail, depending on where they're going. Face masks are required in group settings on board, and the company emphasized that its heating, ventilation, and air conditioning systems do not recirculate air between guest rooms or public areas. And I put their website on my blog at boomerlife.net. The American Queen Steamboat Company is cruising as of July 1st. They're requiring 100% of their guests to be fully vaccinated in order to sail. As a result, face masks are no longer mandatory. However, they're still required for embarkation and disembarkation, as well as on shuttles during excursions. Carnival Cruise Line is cruising as of July 3rd. They resumed departing from Galveston, Texas, and Miami. They required 95% of travelers to be fully vaccinated for each ship to sail as planned. The cruise line has confirmed that passengers looking to set sail should expect standard guidelines backed by the CDC, including the use of face masks, social distancing, and testing before boarding. Celebrity Cruises began June 5th of 2021, and they're sailing through the Caribbean with 500 passengers on board, representing a 95% vaccination rate. The aim is to continue offering Caribbean and Greek island sailings through the rest of June and beyond. The cruise line will require all travelers 18 and older to be fully vaccinated 14 days prior to embarkation, and travelers 12 and older must be fully vaccinated as of August 1st. Guests will need to present a negative COVID PCR test result acquired within 72 hours of the sail date. And the PCR test is the more difficult one, the one they stick up in your brain. Celebrities' panel of health experts include doctors and scientists advised the line to implement policies like temperature screening, enhanced ventilation on board, sanitation stations, and more. The Cunard line, which is the Queen Mary, they have cruises for United Kingdom residents scheduled to restart in August, but international sailings likely won't resume until right around now. On Cunard sailings, travelers can expect policies like pre-boarding COVID-19 testing and screenings, upgraded cleaning efforts in public areas and guest rooms, hand sanitizer stations dispersed throughout the ship, improved air filtration on board, and up-to-date guidelines on face masks and social distancing. They are not welcoming guests with certain medical conditions, such as those requiring dialysis or oxygen, or have been diagnosed with or exposed to COVID within 14 days of embarking. So check their website. They've had a lot of cancellations. Disney Cruise Line was expecting to resume staycation voyages for United Kingdom residents and select Caribbean sailings for Americans in August. The line's first test voyage was Americans was in June 29th, but it was postponed. So I'm not sure what the current status is for them. Um, they plan to comply with CDC guidelines by requiring testing and health screenings and denying boarding to passengers exhibiting symptoms, mandating the use of face masks and more. On top of that, itineraries that last longer than 7 days have been canceled until further notice. Holland America Line began cruising July 24th, resuming its Alaskan sailings, and some of its Greece sailings were resumed in August. Same safety protocols as most of the others, including health screenings, ongoing checks throughout the cruise, rapid response and contact tracing on board should cases arise, extensive sanitation of all ship areas, social distancing through reduced capacities and staggered event times, mandatory face masks, additional medical staff on each ship. So Holland's being really careful. Norwegian cruise lines resumed at the end of July. They plan on resuming sailings to Greece, U.S., Alaska, Caribbean, and additional regions. They require all passengers to be fully vaccinated 2 weeks prior to embarking on a voyage. Crew members must also be fully vaccinated before sailing. All ships now feature medical-grade air filters, and public and private spaces will be frequently sanitized with powerful disinfectants. Travelers should expect contactless temperature checks at multiple points during the cruise, including before boarding, before dining, before activities in public areas, and before getting off the ship at ports of call. Social distancing will be encouraged on board, and a bevy of medical supplies will be available should any guests fall ill during their vacation. So Norwegian is also being very careful. Princess Cruise Lines began again in July. Travelers must be fully vaccinated at least 14 days prior to sailing. Additionally, staff in the onboard medical center are trained to handle any COVID cases. Regent 7 Seas cruises began in September. They plan to have all of their ships back out to sea by February 2022. All crew members and vacationers must be fully vaccinated 14 days prior to sailing. All guests must take a COVID-19 antigen test during the boarding process and receive a negative result to continue. So that's testing as you walk on the ship. Protocols include yada yada, enhanced cleaning and disinfectant throughout. So Regent 7 Seas is being very careful too. Now here's my favorite cruise line, Royal Caribbean. They started cruising again in July out of Miami. Recently updated vaccination guidelines state that the ships leaving out of ports in Florida and Texas will not require proof of vaccination, while sailings departing from Seattle and the Bahamas will. Guests will be tested for COVID prior to boarding, and other safety protocols must be followed. Viking Cruises began again in June. Sailings through Bermuda and Iceland for fully vaccinated travelers. Guests will be tested for COVID daily using PCR tests. New air purification technology has been implemented on all ships. They encourage face masks and social distancing measures, and public surfaces will be frequently disinfected. Although Viking will not require cruisers to get tested independently prior to their trip, it is highly recommended, especially for those experiencing symptoms. Should a traveler test positive during the voyage, Viking will isolate them on board, then disembark them from the ship and arrange for lodging in the nearest port until it is safe for the person to fly home. Wow. Viking River Cruises have relaunched as of July, following the same guidelines as Viking Ocean Cruises, with the added benefit of smaller ship capacities, up to 190 guests, daily testing, social distancing, same kind of stuff. Virgin Voyages began again in August. They plan to debut the Scarlet Lady with a series of mini sailings in the UK. It's followed by U.S. sailings starting in September. Not sure if those actually happened, but you can go to their website, which I put on my blog, to check it out. And finally, Windstar began cruising again with their small ships of 150 to 300 guests each. They require all crew and vacationers to be fully vaccinated for COVID-19 at least 2 weeks before traveling. The company will also administer an antigen test for each passenger during the boarding process. The result must come back negative in order to cruise. For an extra level of protection, they've installed hospital-grade air filters on all yachts. That's it for now, so have a great day, and we'll see you on the flip.